Nos últimos anos, entraram vários termos no nosso vocabulário. Covid, Zaragatoa, Zoom, Teams, teletrabalho, Zaragatoa, calls, videochamadas, aulas online. Não sei se já disse Zaragatoa. Adiante. A pandemia obrigou-nos a uma adaptação em tempo recorde a uma realidade que implicasse distância. Escolas, faculdades e empresas recorreram aos meios e plataformas digitais para promover o ensino e a continuação de projetos de atividades culturais, atividades comerciais e outros setores de atividade. Descobrimos que muito do que fazíamos presencialmente, desde reuniões de 4 horas a visitas a museus, se podia efetivamente fazer através da internet, de um computador e à distância de um clique. Claro, com outras especificidades e sem a experiência do contacto pessoal, mas também com algumas vantagens, como, por exemplo, eliminar distâncias físicas e custos económicos e ambientais imputáveis a deslocações desnecessárias. No entanto, apesar de conseguirmos fazer muita coisa numa videoconferência, há também muita da proximidade, da partilha de conhecimento e de experiências que o digital não consegue promover. O ser humano precisa de contacto e beneficia dele. Eu assumo. Eu preciso de contacto físico, de estar com as pessoas, olhar as pessoas nos olhos. Num setor tão específico como o aeronáutico, até onde poderá ir a formação e o ensino à distância? Será possível implementar plataformas de e-learning no setor da aviação com o mesmo grau de eficiência e de resultados que o ensino presencial? Bom, o que sabemos é que para promover um debate sobre o tema desafios de ensino à distância na aviação comercial, nós, aqui, optámos por uma conferência presencial e não por uma videoconferência. Se bem que haverá, de certo, aí, desse lado, muitas e muitas pessoas a acompanharem-nos online através do streaming. Ainda bem e obrigada. Já estou aqui a divagar. O melhor é passar a palavra ao professor coordenador de licenciatura em Gestão Aeronáutica do ISEC de Lisboa, que irá moderar este debate. Eu chamo então aqui ao palco o professor Rui Castro Quadros. Senhor professor, venha daí. Vamos a isso? Tá. Preparadíssimo? Desde o ano passado. Tudo bem? Obrigada.
Bem, então, boa tarde a todos, primeiro em português. Good afternoon, everyone. For those that are joining me in the stage, and for those that are virtually somewhere in the world. And I would like to transmit you some words. Finally, air transport is getting richer and richer. Revenues are finally increasing, and people are returning to travel. And of course, that revenues, because they are increasing, and because there is some changes on capacity, of course, we are going to pay more for the air tickets. But that's life. That's the way to recover. So everybody talks about sustainability, but it's important not to demonize the air transport. And for that reason, we are as well going to speak about sustainability. But sustainability, for all of us, it means bringing together all the different stakeholders. Therefore, nothing more appropriate than listening to our guests have to say about sustainability in higher education, executive education. So, I have with me 3 esteemed speakers from our industry, and I would like to start by inviting my dear friend Anca Gosling. Please, Anca. Anca Gosling is the Director Training Content and Development at Aeroclass. Aeroclass is a virtual learning technology startup focused on the aviation industry for aviation newcomers and professionals. Anca has more than 12 years' experience in developing and designing courses, working for United Nations, IATA, and right now Aeroclass. She also lobbies for more affordable training that would empower individuals and make aviation industry more creative and dynamic. Thank you, Anca, for accepting our invitation. Our next guest, taking the opportunity to greet, it's not physically present, but of course technology allows to be remotely. Nadine Itani, can I see you? Hi, Nadine. Is leader of the Air Transport Management, is leader of Air Transport Management Program at the prestigious University of Surrey, lecturer, researcher, and PhD in Air Transport Management. For the past 15 years, Nadine has supported government agencies, airlines, and airports in people and organization talent strategy projects, have contributed to ICAO projects in the Middle East. Nadine received the 2011 International Civil Aviation Organization Graduate and Postdoctoral Award. Her research is published in High Impact Journal, and she is frequently featured by international media as an expert about air transport. Thanks again, Nadine, for being with us. Finally, remotely from Florida, and greeting our next guest, Kenneth Witcher, the Dean of the College of the Aviation of the world's oldest, largest, and most respected university, specializing in aviation and aerospace, Embry-Riddle Worldwide Campus. Kenneth has been a dedicated faculty member at Embry-Riddle since 2004 and Dean since 2014. He's Doctor of Philosophy in Business Aviation. Ken has an extensive curriculum, and here are a few notes from Ken. He leads a team of over 400 faculty, supporting over 13 students enrolled in 21 degree programs. Ken spent 20 years in the United States Air Force, Chief Field Training Detachment for aircrafts, such as F-15 and F-16, among others. So, thanks a lot. It is a must to make this presentation because these persons that we have with us, they have great credits in the market. So let's talk a little bit about the challenges of education for the future and what is going right now. So I would like to ask Anca, can you please explain me the concept of Aeroclass?
First of all, thank you very much, everybody, and thanks, Rui, for the invitation. It's an honor to be here. Aeroclass is indeed a small company with a very big mission, is to empower people through education. So basically, to break the barrier of training, aviation learning, and learn anywhere, anytime. So a big vision. I'm a big believer that with more people accessing education will empower, and you will see better leaders in aviation industry in the years to come. So I would say in like three major trends what we're doing with Aeroclass, and I'm very passionate about this, is first connect people, learners, with aviation experts. People learn from people, right? So the main idea is to put the instructor or professor at the core of the training. It's not about the content, it's also very much about the content, but not exclusively about the content. It's about the experience that the professor brings, about their credentials, about the passion that they have to transmit for a topic. I mean, believe it or not, you know, everyone remembers the best teacher we had in school. So we like to convey that passion to the new aviation professionals. And we know very well that the industry has an issue with attracting new talent to the industry. So that's the way to go about it, to show them the real role models, the great subject matter experts that we have worldwide. So another piece of work that we've been doing in Aeroclass is actually based on a research study. It just shows that actually the traditional or historically people used to learn in silos. So it's a piece of information about aviation law, a piece of information about KPIs in the industry, MRO, and so on. But it seems like the human brain takes longer to process the information and connect the dots and put the pieces of the puzzle together afterwards. So what we've been doing to do the Aeroclass is kind of helping students connect the dots beforehand. So instead of feeding them information, bit by information by information, we'll do that holistically together with the industry. And finally, it's all about basically breaking the silos. I mean, Aeroclass, I think we are fortunate to be positioned in between academia and the corporate world. So Avia Solution Group that owned the Aeroclass has more than 70 companies worldwide. And we are able to work with the industry experts, our professionals, to develop parts of these training courses. So I think breaking the silos between the academia and the workforce, it's a way to go in the future. So students are well prepared, and then when they enter their day-to-day job, they come with the information that they need to perform and have a better role. So very much in a nutshell.
Thank you. So of course that we have to confront technology, and I would like to make this question first to Nadine and then to Kenneth. We all know that in general terms, some faculty members are very happy with this new ways that the world is heading. Others felt that applications of technology for teaching in some ways may be inferior to the traditional classroom. What do you think about, Nadine, about this argument?
Well, thank you for the invitation, first of all, and hello, everyone. So our contribution virtually fits well in this theme about digital learning and technology integration with the learning experience. To be honest, it's about the perspective, how we look about and how we see or perceive the role of technology and digitalization in the learning experience. Previously, in early stages, face-to-face learning was there. It was the core deliverable, and technology was used more or less to complement the learning experience. But nowadays, with everything happening around us and the way that technology is changing our lives, changing the way we live, changing the way we work, and the way we learn as well, the core deliverable or the core design should be mainly designed around technology. So learning should be designed around technology, and face-to-face will complement this learning experience or digital learning experience, I would say. And of course, we are going to discuss later on how technology and the digital learning process can unleash a huge potential and can reach outside the campus wall. So universities have now bigger outreach, global outreach, and it can serve as well the commercial aspect when it comes to cutting costs in face of what we are currently facing in terms of inflation and economic recession. So it all adds up depending on the perspective and where we decide to place technology.
Okay, thank you, Nadine. So, Kenneth, please, your view about this argument.
Sure, and thank you so much for the opportunity, and thanks for inviting Embry-Riddle to this conversation. And Nadine, that was the great point, and I agree there completely. This how things are changing around us now. And if I remember your question correctly, you're asking specifically about how faculty are adjusting to this. And so let me just kind of address that point, if you don't mind. And what we've learned here at Embry-Riddle, we've been doing what we refer to as online education since about 1994, using a learning management system or the online platforms that you see out there today. And in that time frame, we've seen that change. We've seen it come from predominantly in face-to-face learning, like we've already talked about today. And then we've seen it move over to more online. And then we've seen it kind of come to some kind of a model that's a blended model nowadays. And I think that's a logical transition for the capability and the tools that we use here. Now, the faculty at each of these stages, and we've got wonderful faculty, and I know everybody that's represented here today has wonderful faculty, but the faculty have gone through those series of changes. And when you move from predominantly teaching on face-to-face to leveraging a different type of technology to transfer knowledge, that's a challenge, and the faculty sometimes will be resistant to that. Others, you have early adopters who are quickly jumping into that and taking on that new technology. But if you think about it, we went from chalkboards in the classroom where we're writing things on the wall to overhead projectors to some integrating more of the computers and those kind of things. All of those were stages of changes, and they just resulted in a different tool that the faculty had available to them to help them transfer knowledge. So if we approach this new online modalities, these new capabilities, if we approach this technology as just a tool that will help faculty to transfer knowledge, then I think faculty adjusted that a little bit better. In our experience, for sure, we've had faculty adjust a little bit better to this. So instead of thinking, oh, I'm just an online instructor, I'm an online faculty member, or I'm just a face-to-face faculty member, then maybe we just say you're a faculty member of whatever topic, and we say, here are the tools available to you. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's a text chat, maybe it's using something like Microsoft Teams that we're using today. Maybe it's sitting down in a classroom with 50 students, and whatever those are just tools to help the faculty address the teaching and learning that needs to take place. So I love the idea. I love what Nadine mentioned there about how this is technology changing, and I agree 100%. What I think we have to be real careful of is not putting it in a box and saying this is online and this is face-to-face and this is something these are just tools available to our faculty, and whatever tool works best, I think, is what the faculty should be using to teach. Now, we know that online in many cases brings in a different market and a different demographics and students that would otherwise not have the opportunity for the education we're providing. So those kind of things drive sometimes the tools that you have to use as a faculty member, but the basics are still the same. It's just a tool available to you to provide the teaching and learning that needs to take place in the classroom. So we've had different types. The faculty have responded in different ways, but for the most part, we've had success, not always real quickly, though we've eventually had success in getting our faculty to understand that this is a tool available to them to teach their course as they have in the past.
Okay. If I may, Rui.
Yes, please.
Yes. Hello. Can everybody hear me? Yes.
Yes.
So to Kenneth and Nadine's point, actually, one element that is massively overlooked is like the way the new generation learn, which is fundamentally different from how we used to learn. So a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, and so on will be already immersed in technology. They live through a different. And their expectation when they are going to be a teenager, going to high school, college, is to be part of that technology world, to have online courses, to be digital, learning at the point of need. So I think if the society cannot see that they have to, follow this trend, then we are in trouble, because in order to attract the best of the best in people, I think we need to turn around and say we be more inclusive using technology. And in the end, technology is an enabler. It's not, we don't use it. It all comes down to design and development. You're not forced to use it. You have to use it with a purpose to create a better course material or content and so on.
Okay, thank you. So, Anca, of course we are talking about United States, England, and Europe, but for example in Portugal it's very difficult to have a culture between industry and academia. It's very difficult. It's hard to speak, especially when we are talking about management, because everything is secret. So how do you think your company would enable this kind of liaison that academia needs between universities and the industry? I know that for Embry Riddle it's very easy, and as well for Nadine, because England, it's completely different, but I would like to hear about as well. But on the rest of Europe, it's not so easy.
It comes down to, human nature in the end, and we can make a lot of things happen if we want to make them happen. I think we've seen the results. We cannot train people in silos. If we do this, on the first day of the job, the person will say, well, forget what you learned in school. Let's just look at the job, and I will teach you how to do your work. I think it comes, even from the regulator, more engagement, more communication. It comes down to attracting people. I mean, Air Portugal Summit, I've seen a lot of young students and even school age coming in and seeing how these planes are flying and discovering the aviation. So this is the first step. And then through that, you have the step forward of engaging the industry as well to put the funds that they need to put into, attracting people, either through paid internships, all sorts of other creative ways to engage with the student. And this is what Avia Solution Group has been doing, and we are quite proud of how it works out.
Thank you, thank you. And I would like to come back to technology. The first time I spoke with Kenneth, it was on Zoom. I told him that I am really amazed, and I'm still very amazed, with the Embry-Riddle MOOCs. I think the last editions I have made 3 or 4, and I was really amazed. Amazed because the number of students and the number of instructions, the quality of the courses. Can you explain us a little bit how is this possible? Especially put people 24 hours a day, giving all these explanations, and of course a great liaison between industry and airlines. I would like to hear a little bit about what kind of infrastructure do we need to build up this kind of training, and with the Embry-Riddle's badge, that it's not for credits, of course, but it's very important.
Yeah, thank you very much, first of all, for those kind words. I appreciate that very much. And our massive open online courses, are the MOOCs they're referred to there. There's multiple organizations, multiple universities around the planet that are using these, and for good reason. And this is really just our chance to kind of give back to the communities, and more importantly, this global aviation aerospace community. So if there's a way that we can provide something that's going to help out folks, maybe one of like our accident investigation MOOCs that we use down in South America, Central America, they're very popular there because they really have no other way to get exposure at a reasonable cost to that kind of knowledge. So we're kind of just sharing with the community. So they're twofold. One is we want to give back, and we think this is a good way to do that. The second one is there's a lot of this world, a lot of this population around the world that has very distinctive opinions about what online education is or can be. And in this case, we were able, we want to expose them, like your comments there. That you mentioned that it's a quality product. There's real faculty that are really engaged with the students to help the students learn. That's how we teach online learning. So we want to make sure that the world gets exposure to that. So we've been able to do that. If you want the mechanics of it, I can share real quickly. We use our learning management system that we use at Embry-Riddle is called Canvas, and Canvas has a section of it that allows us to bring in students that are not necessarily Embry-Riddle students. So there's security issues with firewalls and things, but there's a part of it that allows us to do that. So it can hold, I don't know, we've had 13,000, 14,000 people in those MOOCs before, in those sessions before, and we've never had the issue. So it allows us to bring in a lot of folks. And then what I do is I get faculty that are very interested in the topic, that want to give back, that feel this sense of service. And I ask them, can you volunteer? Because remember, there's no money in this. It's free. So I ask them, will you volunteer and come in and answer tweets or answer discussion board comments? Can you lead discussions? Can you do some of the live sessions that, of course, we record for folks that can't watch it live? And we always get a tremendous support because, you know, anybody that's in education really wants to give back to the communities and to the industry. So we've had success there. Thank you very much. The MOOCs went through a fad where they were really popular, and now they're not quite as popular, but the fundamental reason for doing them is still there. It still exists, and we believe strongly in it.
Okay, thank you. Nadine, how do you see blended learning, teaching in degree courses, especially on aviation related to management?
Well, thanks for the question. Actually, it's all back to the purpose that Anca mentioned. So considering that the universities and the higher education institutions has this purpose to work hand in hand with the industry, specifically when we are speaking of air transport. So the role here, amidst everything that we are facing, is to really shorten the pipeline between the degrees and the workplace. So in terms of this, the hybrid learning and integrating technology and following what we call micro-learning, digital micro-learning is really helping to shorten this time period between the classroom and work. And to be honest, I mean, this had been like highlighted by international organizations before, ICAO, IATA, Eurocontrol, ACI, that the skill sets that are required to serve the industry and help in its continuous growth, they are changing, and the training needs are changing as well. People would like to learn in the flow of work. In many cases, and the air transport, of course, we have a lot of participants in our programs. They are already working in the industry, so they require like more like upskilling rather than learning the foundations or the basics. In this regard, we are reaching out to industry partners or to content providers, I would say, companies or organizations that are top-notch in what they do. I'll give you an example of a company called Skytra, which is a startup that is funded and it's part of Airbus open ecosystem. So Skytra developed a really important innovative offering, which is centered around airline revenue hedging. So this brings in airline financing, treasury skills, and data analytics as well. So they help in this regard, for example, to design a micro-learning module, I would say, that bring in the skills for those who are interested in airline treasury or airline financing and data analytics as well, to offer their expertise in this domain to the students who are mainly executives or executives to be in the aviation and airline industry. So by this, we would give or we would mimic the workplace environment and help the participants to learn on the flow of work if they are involved with an airline. And this couldn't be done if technology and digital tools aren't there. So digital tools help us a lot in terms of designing such a learning business model.
Okay, thank you very much. I do agree. I think is not easy, but I believe is the way for the future. I spoke already with you about the CEO of EDX. He has some predictive words about education in the future, and I would like to hear from you three what you think. What is your vision he says the possibility of micro-learning allows the students to pick up a piece of what interests most and not the whole. If you agree with this, and if you think this is productive. Maybe I would start with Anca.
Sure. I mean, the short answer is there is no turning back. Well, COVID-19 was an accelerator in many areas in aviation, including training. So we've seen a mini revolution when it comes to delivering, developing training. As Nadine saying, with more companies taking the lead, using technology, being more flexible. So in my perspective, there is no turning back, and it's a positive. I mean, according to the most recent Oxford Economic Report, there are 2.3 million people that lost their job, and it's a big gap to fill, considering that the other area experiments the same thing, and we are competing for talent at the moment. So what I will see in the future is probably a different, competency-based training is taking the lead, and we'll see that how do you use those competencies not to in a future job, and more collaborating with the industry. Collaboration with the industry will probably be crucial in order to train the new generation aviation professionals. So this is
okay. Thank you.
This is I will see if I'm right in 10 years' time, but I see more technology coming our way.
Yeah, I do believe so. Thank you. So maybe Kenneth, please, can you give us your shot about this argument about Mr. Anca Gosling, CEO of EDX?
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that as well. That Anca there is spot on, and this is the micro learning concepts. This is the legacy education, the degree programs. Although that is our business model, of course, and it hasn't been completely disrupted yet, but we can see it writing on the wall clearly, and especially here at the Worldwide campus, where the majority of our students are adult learners. We're seeing how this lifelong learning, knowledge right when it's needed in your career, is really important. And our graduate programs that we offer here are applied in nature, and they're very focused on providing the learner the information they need today in the industry that they're working in, at the level that they're working in that industry at, which is important. The average age of our graduate student here at Worldwide is something like 34 in the aero and engineering side. So we understand that you don't just take an 18 or 17-year-old young person and give them a 4-year degree and then send them to the industry and say, good luck, you're done. This learning has to take place. Now, it might not be in a degree. It might be something like a MOOC. It might be something like professional education or this not-for-credit education, where we can take the knowledge that we've accrued and the faculty that we have here at Embry-Riddle, and we can focus learning on exactly what the industry needs or that workforce needs to support that particular industry. We see that changing, and I think that's not going to slow down. We'll see that accelerate over time, and that will be the future. This micro-learning, right place, right time, give me the information I need to be successful tomorrow at work. That makes perfect sense.
Okay, thank you. Nadine, can you please have your view?
Yes, of course. I would like to touch on the importance of return on investment, specifically that micro-learning actually can help organizations in the transport sector and other also fast-paced sectors to justify the return on investment on learning and development. So micro-learning, specifically when embedded within digital tools, it is scalable, it can cut cost, the content is recyclable, it can be updated, and when enriched with digital tools like machine learning, it can also provide a medium for analytics. So it can provide data for the organizations and learners. You can track performance. You can track achievements. You can make it as flexible as you would like, and then the organizations and the students can take more informed decisions on where to go next in this learning process. And this will definitely drive the return on investment when it comes to learning and development, or the human capital capacity forward. So this is really important. But again, challenges are there. Because now we are speaking of, if we look like global perspective, universally, when it comes to information and communication technology preparedness, there are huge gaps regionally, and not all regions have access to technology. Some countries or some regions, they are producers, other are consumers, and technology is expensive. And to integrate it within the infrastructure that is available, regardless of the level of development of this infrastructure, is also expensive. With the inflation and the economic recession looming in the horizon, so I can see a lot of challenges facing the implementation or the integration of technology in learning.
Okay, Nadine, I take the opportunity. Once again, another bombastic thought. He says that in the future, universities will be a space of discussion where people come together and discuss and learn with collaborative technology. Of course, you agree. Do you agree with this?
Yes, I do agree. And I can see that we can have this virtual educated discussion in a metaverse, for example, where you can bring in research partners, research organizations, industry representatives, academia, and also governments that can support specific initiatives. So why not? I mean, the pandemic has taught us that collaboration is one of the successful ways forward, and technology and the digital spaces, they can definitely play a significant role and a critical role in fostering collaboration.
Yeah. Kenneth, can I hear you about this argument?
Yeah, I agree. With everything that's been said here, this technology allows us to collaborate in a classroom, and that only brings value to the students without exception. If the faculty is standing and teaching, let's say, about labor relations in an airline, and we can bring in, leveraging the technology, we can bring in a guest speaker or something from anywhere in the world that can talk specifically to something that's happened in labor relations today in their organization. That brings that real world, that brings that this is important to understand kind of value to the classroom, and a perspective that the students just would not have gotten without the technology. So I think the university and the technology that surrounds the university as we move forward will ultimately be a collaboration area, be the area of discussion, as you mentioned in the intro there, to where not only do we have a structured learning environment, but we have all of this other stuff that we can bring into the conversation from industry, from regulators, from governments, from all aspects, and have that discussion in a real meaningful way, much more than a single faculty could have done without leveraging the technology. So I'm a fan. I think they're spot on with the how they're envisioning the universities of the future.
So you both think that universities, as all the resources, of course, with collaborative technology, that is for sure, because there is no future. But do you think the industry will be able to give some knowledge, for example, from what kinds of companies like Aeroclass that could protect in the future, because the resources are always limited? Do you think the industry has a word to tell? Yes, Anca, do you think?
I think more collaboration is better. That's for the students, better for the industry. As I said, I think whatever you're doing as Surrey or Embry-Riddle or Aeroclass, IATA, ICAO, ACI, and so on, it's preparing the workforce of the future. If we don't have sufficient people in the future to fill in the gaps and work for the industry, then we are doing really, frankly speaking, a poor job, because a shortage of labor has a cripple effect on the economic side, environmental side, social side. So I think we need to be mindful of that. In the end, we work holistically at the industry, and I think our drive is the same. I mean, yes, we compete in a certain extent or another, but I think, out of the very bright people we have as a pool of instructors, subject matter experts, companies, and so on, the result should be the same, basically attracting, retention, and empowering people for the future. And we see that we have an issue with the attracting new generation, we have an issue with the retention, and how we do that, possibly through training. Training them, making understand that the industry has opportunities for them. So what we've been doing at the Aeroclass is developing the learning curves, learning path, career path. So basically, when you start, you are not. We know that as a ground handler, maybe you are better off doing a job in a supermarket than a ground handler, and you pay the same, more or less the same money. But then we offer you career promotion. We offer you a perspective in the industry. So you have to see it as an individual that is finding their identity and they are looking for a better job somewhere else, but retaining it, and having them work for the industry in the years to come. So if we are mindful of that and our scope in life, I think we'll be in a better position in the future.
Okay, thank you. And I have another one that is very curious. I would like you three to support me or not. I agree, but he says that nowadays we need continuous learning throughout our lives because the world is changing. It will be increasingly difficult to go to the university, to have a family, and to have a job. My advice is learn how to learn online. Do you agree with that? What do you think about this? Nadine, can you give me your perspective?
Well,
I am a teacher as well, and I am learning how to teach online as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, technology has turned most of us, or the inquisitive at least, people to become lifelong learners. So because learning now is more accessible, it is available, and it is provided in, as we mentioned, micro-learning modules or information nuggets that we can fit in our busy schedule on our mobile phones, for example, laptop, tablets. So it's there, and it has easier access. So it definitely can create this character of the lifelong learner. But what I'm interested to talk about is the concept that Anca was referring to, which is supplying the industry, the air transport industry, with the required resources. And I would like to take like a perspective, a macro perspective from a supply and demand point of view. So education institutions, Aeroclass, and all these learning providers are really working with the industry and helping industry to provide the workforce. And the digital learning offerings can get access to wider markets. Okay, so the wider markets, or people from outside of the campus walls, as we mentioned, they are available in other parts in the world, in emerging economies, in growing parts of the world, which are mainly international students, as we call now. So they have the skills because they now have access to learning and education online and through hybrid modes. But how about migrating those skills and making use of those skills in different parts of the world where they are facing shortages in aviation professionals and the aviation labor? So this requires the contribution also of governments in terms of policies when it comes to visas, when it comes to, for example, postgraduate visa regulations. So most postgraduate visa regulations for international students, they are offered for students who are available on campus physically in this specific country, not for international students who are across borders. So this really requires the intervention of governments in order to help in migrating those skills that are in other countries to make use of them in parts of the world where the aviation industry is really lacking facing shortages in the workforce.
Thank you. Kenneth, do you follow Nadine?
I do. I agree. I would argue that it might not be harder today to pursue a family and a career and education all at the same time, but I would certainly argue that the typical human walking this planet today doesn't want to do that. They don't want to have to sacrifice one part of their life to enjoy the other part of their life. That's what we're seeing in the work environment. It's what we're seeing in the education environment. So they are needing tools that the technology can bring to learning available to them in a way that supports the rest of their life, because they're not willing to make those sacrifices. Like, I'm an old man, so years ago you had to kind of put one part of your life on the shelf to pursue another part, and that's just not true today with technology. And I want to go back to what Nadine said too about this, and Anca, about the workforce and about how critical this is. So when we talk to, and how technology plays a role into this, and lifelong learning in reality plays a role into this, when we talk to airlines from around the world, our manufacturers make my favorite right there. Sorry, I think I was hearing jet noise in the background. That's awesome. But when we talk to the big manufacturers or the airlines, they tell us that diversity is important, and it is, and that we cannot continue to recruit the same workforce that we recruited in the past. You can't. We will not be successful if we do. So we have to find a new way to educate and train the upcoming workforce, and that lends itself directly towards the use of technology. So when you can reduce the overhead costs, then you can create a learning platform that is not only affordable, but it's accessible. It's meaning that we can deliver it anywhere really on the planet where there's technology, be able to support it, and that it comes in a much more affordable component. So we're starting to get into some of these socioeconomic environments where we have really talented people that really, really want to be in the aviation aerospace industry, but they have no pathway there now. I think technology is going to allow us to provide a clear pathway that's a quality pathway to being successful in the aerospace and aviation industry, leveraging these tools that we're all talking about. So yeah, I'm on board.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid we are closing our session. I believe this question Anca already answers.
Yeah, if I may just, the simple fact that we have 50% of the panel online and 50% on site, it's a testimony that the technology works, and this is the future. If the future of a panel discussion like this, it's the future of training as well.
Definitely. So before we go, thank you very much for you, my colleagues, and just a little bit of humor before we land, which is to say, to end our session. So needless to say that Embry-Riddle Aviation MOOCs are the best in the world. So thank you, Kenneth. So if you are going to study in England, Surrey is the place to go. It was a pleasure, Nadine. And if you like micro-learning and also like to manage your time, search for Aeroclass and you will be pleasantly surprised. It's just a click away. Thanks a lot. So, thank you very much. See you next time. It was an honor. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye.